Welcome to Old Rare Files. If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe, become a member, and like our content.
This man is seated in a garrote chair. His hands are bound. He is about to be executed in public in the Philippines in the early 20th century. The garrote was a method of execution introduced during Spanish colonial rule. A metal collar around the neck, a mechanism that tightened it. Death by strangulation, sometimes slowly. It was used for decades in former Spanish territories as an official form of punishment. This photograph was not taken in secret. It was taken in front of a crowd. The execution was a public event. The photograph was a souvenir. This is the Parthenon, one of the most recognizable structures in the ancient world, standing on the Acropolis above Athens for more than 2,000 years. And in this photograph, taken in 1941, a Nazi flag is being raised at its base. German forces occupied Greece in April of that year, and this image was used as propaganda, a symbol of Western civilization claimed by a regime that was destroying it. The flag was later taken down by two Greek resistance fighters who risked their lives to do it. The Parthenon is still standing. The flag is gone. Look at this man's skin. Those marks did not come from age or disease. They came from light, from heat, from an explosion so powerful that it burned people who were standing miles away. This man survived the atomic bombings in Japan at the end of World War II. The blasts at Hiroshima and Nagasaki released temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun. His body carried the record of that moment for the rest of his life. He survived something that killed more than 200,000 people. This soldier is cutting through jungle. The vegetation around him is so dense that the path he is making disappears almost immediately behind him. This is the Pacific during World War II. Fighting in the Pacific theater was unlike anything soldiers had trained for. The terrain was hostile, independent of the enemy. Extreme heat, tropical disease, mud that swallowed equipment. Every advance measured in yards, not miles. The soldier in this photograph is not moving toward a battle. He is simply trying to move. These Apache men are standing near an improvised shelter in the American Southwest in the late 1800s. They are armed. They are watching. The Apache had been fighting for their land and survival for decades by the time this photograph was taken. They faced an American military campaign specifically designed to remove them from their ancestral territory. They were photographed by the same government that was trying to destroy their way of life. This image was taken by someone who saw them as subjects. They were not subjects, they were fighting. These children are standing on a train platform with small bags. They look confused. Some look scared. A few look like they are trying to appear brave. They are being evacuated, sent away from their parents to safer areas as German bombs fell on European cities. Thousands of children made this journey during World War II. Some were gone for months. Some were gone for years. Some came back to parents who were no longer there. The train doors closed, and that was the last thing many of them remembered about home. 3 children, sitting in rubble. What was behind them used to be someone's home. The walls are gone, the roof is gone, everything is gone. Millions of European children grew up inside this reality during World War II, not visiting ruins, living next to them. These children did not know a world without bombs. They did not know what it felt like to sleep through the night without fear. This was their childhood. This was the only one they had. These sailors are jumping off a submarine into the open ocean. The water around them is bright. They are laughing. During World War II, life aboard a submarine meant weeks or months in a sealed metal tube with no natural light, limited air, constant mechanical noise, and the knowledge that a single mistake could be fatal. When the order came to surface and the hatch opened and the sky appeared, men jumped. The ocean was not safe, but it was open, and open was everything. This is inside Alcatraz. The raised walkway above the cell blocks is called the gun gallery. From behind those bars, armed guards watch the corridors below at all times, ready to respond, ready to fire. Alcatraz was designed not just to hold prisoners, it was designed to make escape feel impossible. The island location, the cold water, the currents, and above it all, a guard with a rifle watching every step. 36 men tried to escape in the 29 years it operated. None are confirmed to have made it. This is a shantytown. Rows of small shelters built from wood scraps, corrugated metal, and whatever materials could be salvaged from empty lots near the edges of a city. This was not unusual during the Great Depression. Unemployment reached 25% in the United States in the early 1930s. Millions of families lost their homes and built these settlements instead. They called them Hoovervilles, named after the president. Said without affection, said without affection. This couple is embracing in a park. The photograph is soft. The moment looks private, like it was not meant to be seen. It was taken during World War II. By 1942 or 1943, millions of men across Allied countries had already been sent to the front. The farewell moments were everywhere. In train stations, in parks, on front doorsteps. Couples who had been together for years or for months standing in the same impossible situation, not knowing what came next, holding on for one more second before the next thing happened. Look at these soldiers. They are sitting inside a trench. One is reading a newspaper. Another is studying a map. They look almost relaxed, almost ordinary. But these men were living underground, in mud and cold, waiting to be sent to die in one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. World War I killed more than 17 million people. And yet, on this particular afternoon, 2 men sat quietly and read. That is all a man can do when the battle has stopped and he is still alive. These women and children are standing in a relief line. Their clothes are worn. Their expressions are tired but patient. This is a city in the early 1900s during one of the most brutal periods of industrial poverty in American history. Working-class families in large cities lived in overcrowded tenements, worked long hours in dangerous factories, and had no safety net when times got worse. This line represents what happened when things got worse. These families are waiting for food. That was the whole situation. These men are crouching by a river, panning for gold. The water runs cold around their hands. In the early 20th century, gold rushes in remote regions of North America drew thousands of men who left behind jobs, families, and ordinary lives for the possibility of sudden wealth. Most found nothing. The rivers had been worked before they arrived. The cold was worse than expected. The seasons turned fast. Many men who went north looking for gold came back with less than when they left. Some did not come back at all. These children are lying in rows of beds inside a large institutional room. The beds are neatly arranged. The children appear to be resting or sleeping. In the early 20th century, schools, hospitals, and government programs in several countries maintained dormitory-style facilities where children recovering from disease or malnutrition were sent to recuperate. Tuberculosis, rickets, and epidemic illnesses moved through poor neighborhoods with brutal efficiency. Programs like this one were designed to interrupt that cycle. The children in those beds had usually already been through the worst of it. A streetcar is pushing through a blizzard. The snow is thick enough to obscure the buildings behind it. The vehicle is barely visible through the storm. In North American cities in the early 20th century, public transit did not stop for weather. Streetcars ran through ice, snow, and wind because thousands of people depended on them to get to work. Many cars were fitted with metal plows at the front to push snow off the tracks. The driver kept going because stopping was not an option. The city kept moving because stopping was not an option. These families are crossing a stream on wagons pulled by oxen. The water reaches the wheels. The animals move slowly but steadily. In many parts of the United States in the early 1900s, there were no paved roads, no bridges, no automobiles for hundreds of miles. These wagons were everything. They carried food, tools, children, and whatever a family could bring along when they decided to move. Life in isolated rural America was a daily exercise in self-reliance. There was no one coming to help. 2 indigenous people are standing near a river in ceremonial dress. Behind them, a photographer is visible, adjusting equipment. The image captures the moment before the image was meant to be taken. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, many photographers traveled to Native American communities with the stated purpose of documentation. Some approached with respect. Others treated indigenous people as artifacts of a dying culture to be preserved on film before disappearing. The person behind the camera had a point of view. So did the people standing in front of it. This is Marilyn Monroe. She is sitting in a quiet room, relaxed and at ease, a portable radio on the table beside her. This backstage moment from the 1960s captures something rare, not the performance, not the glamour that the world projected onto her, just a woman resting between takes in a modern room, listening to music. She died in 1962 at 36 years old. The image of her as an icon was constructed so thoroughly that moments like this one feel almost surprising. She looks like a person. A car has sunk into the street. The front wheels have disappeared into a hole that opened without warning beneath the road. In the early 20th century, cities were expanding faster than their infrastructure could support. Underground pipes, drainage systems, and utility tunnels were built cheaply and maintained poorly. Road collapses were common enough that photographs like this exist in multiple cities across multiple decades. The driver had no idea what was underneath. Most people never do until it opens up. These women are sitting on a beach in the 1940s. One of them has placed a portable radio on the sand and music is playing. The war is somewhere else for this afternoon. After years of rationing, fear, and loss, ordinary summer pleasures carried a weight they had not carried before. A day at the beach meant the bombs had not fallen here. The portable radio meant there was music again. These women look relaxed. That was not nothing. After what the 1940s had already asked of people, one afternoon on the sand was its own kind of victory. This man has tattoos covering almost every visible part of his body. He is holding a small dog. In the early 20th century, a photograph like this would have been displayed in a sideshow, passed around as a novelty, or sold as a postcard. Extensive tattoos were associated with sailors, with circus performers, with people considered outside the boundaries of polite society. The dog in his arms suggests something softer, something they did not show in the exhibitions. He had a life outside the spectacle. Most people who were turned into spectacles did. A double-decker tram has gone off the rails on a busy English street. The vehicle is tilted at a severe angle. People have gathered around it. In early 20th century British cities, trams were the primary form of urban transit. They ran on fixed steel tracks through narrow streets, sharing the road with horses, pedestrians, and the first automobiles. Accidents were not unusual. Tracks wore down, speeds were misjudged, corners came too fast. The passengers inside a tilting tram had no warning. One moment they were riding to work, then they were not. Look at this couple. They are standing in the middle of a busy city street. People walk past them without stopping, without staring, without a second glance. But the year is somewhere in the early 1900s, and people with dwarfism were not treated as ordinary citizens back then. They were treated as entertainment. Many were hired by circus companies and displayed in front of paying crowds as curiosities. Photographed, exhibited, studied. This image looks like a quiet street scene. It was anything but. These boys are walking barefoot behind a water cart on a London street. Their feet are bare on the pavement. They are following the cart the way children follow anything that moves and makes noise. In early 20th century London, streets were unpaved in many areas, covered with dust, mud, and waste from horses. Water carts were sent through the city to clean them. Automated cleaning systems did not exist. Children walked those streets every day. These ones made a game of following the cart. These American soldiers are cooking in the field. One of them is stirring something over an open fire. They are smiling. In the middle of World War II, in an unknown corner of the world, these men found a brief window of normalcy. Military rations were designed to survive, not to satisfy. Canned food day after day in the same metal containers. So when the fighting stopped for an hour and fresh ingredients were available, they cooked. A hot meal, a small act of being human again. This man is on a Harley-Davidson motorcycle beside a postal box. He is wearing a uniform and carrying mail. Around the 1910s and 1920s, motorcycles were transforming how cities communicated. Letters and packages that once took days to cross a growing city could now be delivered in hours. Postal services were adopting the technology quickly. This man on that motorcycle was part of something most people at the time did not fully appreciate. The modern world was being delivered one street at a time. This is an American office in the 1920s. The room is full of women. Every desk has a typewriter. Every drawer is part of a filing system. This was the new corporate world. Thousands of women entered administrative work during this decade, transforming what the modern office looked like. They organized information, managed correspondence, and kept businesses running with precision. They were largely paid less than the men above them. History credited the men who signed the letters, rarely the women who typed them. This woman is standing beside a Singer sewing machine. Next to her, an elegant dress hangs complete and ready. She made that. In the 1920s, the rise of the home sewing machine changed what was possible for thousands of women. It became a path to independence, a way to earn money without leaving the house, a way to express skill and creativity in a world that offered women very few professional outlets. That machine was not just a tool. For many, it was a livelihood. This is Rome in the 1950s. A narrow cobblestone street, small European cars parked along the curb, motorcycles weaving between pedestrians. The ancient buildings rising on both sides look exactly as they looked in the centuries before. Italy had just come through the devastation of World War II. Cities had been bombed. The economy was shattered. But standing there in that narrow Roman street, none of that destruction was visible. The stones were the same. The city endured. It always had. This is a fashion photograph from the 1960s. The pose is unusual. The lighting is theatrical. The setting makes no practical sense. That was entirely the point. During this decade, fashion photography stopped being about showing clothes and started being about making a statement. Photographers were drawing from surrealism, from modern art, from the visual language of cinema. A photograph was no longer documentation. It was a provocation. The dress almost seemed secondary to whatever else is happening in this frame. These are the ruins of a medieval fortress. Stone walls still standing after hundreds of years. Towers that once held armed guards watching every approach. In the early days of photography, capturing an image like this required dragging heavy equipment across rough terrain to reach remote locations. The photographers who did it were documenting a disappearing world. Structures like this one were already falling when the shutter opened. Many of them are not standing today. These photographs are what remains. Two women are working with thread and fabric outside a stone house. Their hands are moving. The work is precise. In rural Europe at the turn of the 20th century, making clothing by hand was not a hobby, it was survival. Factory-made clothing was expensive. Materials were rationed by cost and access. If a family needed warm clothes for winter, someone had to make them from scratch. These women probably started learning this skill before they were 10 years old. Look at this group posing near the water. The matching outfits, the naval details, the careful arrangement for the camera. These men and women are dressed in uniforms inspired by the United States Navy. In the 1920s, naval aesthetics had moved far beyond the fleet. They had entered fashion, theater, beach culture, and parties. A country still shaped by the First World War had turned one of its most powerful symbols into a costume. History does not always announce itself with gravity. Three young women are standing together in the early 1900s, wearing fashionable dresses and wide-brimmed hats. They look confident. The clothes they are wearing represent something. Victorian fashion had required women to wear corsets, layers, and rigid structured garments that made ordinary movement difficult. By the early 1900s, that was slowly changing. Lighter fabrics, looser shapes. These women were standing at the beginning of one of the most significant shifts in fashion history. They just looked like they were going somewhere nice. This man is wearing stripes. He is posing for the camera with the practiced stillness of someone who has stood like this before. But he is not an actor, he is a prisoner. In the early 1900s, prison uniforms were designed to humiliate as much as to identify. Photographs like this one were used to document inmates, to catalog them, to reduce a human being to a number, a file, a face in a row. The system did not ask if he deserved to be there. Very few systems ever do. Very few systems ever do. This woman is holding a fish bigger than her torso. She is standing proud, dressed for a day on the water, and the fish she caught in the 1930s would have made headlines at any competition. Sport fishing in the United States was one of the few leisure activities where women competed alongside men during this era. The size of the catch was the only thing that mattered. This photograph was not just a trophy shot, it was proof that she had won. This motorcycle has been fitted with a makeshift sidecar. Inside it, an elderly woman sits beside her dog. Both look completely unbothered. In post-war Europe, traditional automobiles were too expensive and used too much fuel. Small motorcycles and improvised vehicles became the practical solution for millions of families. They were cheaper, easier to maintain, and could navigate streets damaged by wartime destruction. This woman found her way. Her dog came along. Neither one appears to have any complaints. This is Italy in the 1950s. A busy street, cafes with chairs spilling out onto the sidewalk, a scooter weaving through the crowd. The war had ended less than a decade before. Cities had been rebuilt, or partly rebuilt, or rebuilt enough to pretend. The outdoor culture, the noise, the life happening in public spaces, it was real. It was also a way of moving forward. Italy chose to face the street instead of the ruins. The cafes helped. This boy is wearing a miniature waterproof coat and standing beside a full-grown sailor on the deck of a ship. He looks proud. Serious even. Children sometimes traveled with family members on long commercial and fishing voyages in the early 20th century. The sea was not a place for the young. It was dangerous, unpredictable, and far from any help. But for some boys, it was also where they grew up. This one looks like he already understood that.